The night was quiet. Too quiet. Captain Elias Ward had learned long ago that silence in an unknown world was rarely just silence. As he stepped out of his small exploration pod, the first thing he noticed was the soft glow of the forest around him. Strange crystalline trees reached high into the sky, their translucent branches reflecting the fading light of the planet's twin moons. Beneath them, glowing fungi spread across the ground like tiny lanterns. The colors were surreal. Blue, green, and violet lights flickering in irregular patterns, casting moving shadows that danced across the forest floor. Elias carried only a small pack and a portable scanner. His suit was durable but lightweight, designed for long treks on worlds that humans had barely begun to understand. As he set up his camp in a small clearing, he noticed the air was cool and damp, carrying a faint metallic scent. He checked his instruments. The readings were stable, the gravity slightly lower than Earth's, and the atmosphere breathable with his mask. A sigh escaped him, even though no one could hear it. Humans had survived in harsher conditions before, and he felt a quiet pride in that fact. He unpacked his few supplies, setting down a foldable chair and placing the portable fire starter at the center of the clearing. Humans had an ancient instinct for fire, and even here, on a distant planet, that instinct remained. He struck the lighter. A small flame leapt up, steady and warm. He fed it a few small pieces of dry wood he had collected from the strange alien trees. The flames flickered higher, throwing light across the clearing and illuminating the forest around him. For a few moments, Elias allowed himself to relax. He stared into the fire and thought of home. He thought of Earth, its oceans and mountains, the familiar sky at sunset, and the way humanity had always reached beyond its limits. He had left Earth with a team of explorers months ago, charting unclaimed planets at the edges of known space. Most of his colleagues had returned to orbiting stations or research vessels, but Elias had volunteered to continue alone for a few days. He liked the solitude, the feeling of being the first human to walk on a world untouched by civilization. The forest around him was alive. Strange creatures moved silently between the glowing trees, their eyes reflecting the firelight for brief, dazzling moments. Some were small, no larger than a rabbit, with translucent skin that made them almost invisible in the dark. Others were larger, their silhouettes moving gracefully between the trunks, leaving faint glowing footprints in the soft moss. Elias's scanner picked up their movements, but he did not panic. This planet had life, yes, but there was no immediate threat, at least not yet. He prepared a small meal from his rations, heating a nutrient-rich packet over the fire. He ate slowly, savoring the warmth and comfort the flames provided. The forest, beautiful as it was, could feel alien and intimidating. Every shadow seemed to hide a secret. Every movement of light could be something unknown. Yet Elias felt a thrill in the uncertainty. This was exploration. This was why humanity ventured into the stars, to discover, to survive, and to adapt. As he finished his meal, he heard a distant rustling. Not the soft scuttling of small creatures, but something larger. He stood slowly, keeping his hands away from the scanner and tools until he could see what was coming. His heart beat faster, not with fear, but with anticipation. This was the moment every explorer remembered, the first sign that he was not alone. The rustling grew louder. A low, rhythmic sound echoed through the trees, almost like drumming. Elias crouched slightly and adjusted the focus on his scanner. The signal indicated a large group of creatures moving together, fast but coordinated. He could see glimpses of their shapes, tall, lithe, covered in rough, patterned skin that reflected the moonlight in odd angles. They moved as a group, not scattered like the forest animals. Elias felt a chill. These were not ordinary wildlife. They were intelligent. They had strategy. They were watching him. He remembered his training, patience, observation, and respect for the unknown. He remained still, letting the scanner do its work and letting the firelight protect him by keeping the shadows at bay. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. It was hard to tell in the soft alien night. The sounds drew closer. The rhythmic drumming seemed to surround him now, coming from all directions. He realized with a mix of awe and caution that whatever was approaching was organized. They were not attacking yet, but they were curious. Every instinct in him told him to be alert, to be careful, to be ready. Elias spoke softly, more to himself than to anyone else. "Calm," he said. "We've survived worse. Just watch, learn, and adapt." He thought of humanity, how humans had always faced the unknown and survived. From the deserts of Earth to the frozen poles, from the deep oceans to the first moon landings, humans had adapted, learned, and thrived. And now, here he was, facing a new world and its mysterious inhabitants. He decided to test the waters, metaphorically speaking. He adjusted his scanner to emit a low-frequency pulse, a signal that could indicate peaceful intentions without aggression. The group paused, their movements halting for a moment as if listening. Elias held his breath. For the first time he saw one of them step into the light of his campfire, a tall figure with eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. It studied him. Elias met its gaze without fear. There was intelligence there, awareness, curiosity. He extended a hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. The creature tilted its head, and then the others began to emerge from the shadows, forming a loose circle around his campfire. Elias felt his pulse quicken. The night had been quiet, but now the forest was alive in a way he had never experienced. It was tense, dangerous, and fascinating all at once. The creatures were humanoid in some ways, but also alien in every other aspect. Their skin shimmered faintly like liquid metal under the moonlight. They had long, elegant limbs and fingers that ended in delicate tips as if designed for careful manipulation. They carried no weapons. Their movements were fluid, almost graceful, and each step was measured. They did not roar or hiss. They communicated silently through gestures and body language. Elias realized that understanding them would require patience, observation, and respect. He returned to his chair and sat down slowly, keeping his movements calm. He reached for a small bag of supplies, nutrient packs, and small tools, and placed them on a rock near the fire. A gift, if nothing else, to show he was not a threat. One of the creatures approached cautiously, extending a hand toward the items. It examined them with delicate precision, touching the fire starter and watching the flames leap. Elias nodded, indicating they were safe. The creature stepped back and turned to signal the others. The group murmured among themselves in low tones, their communication alien but clearly deliberate. Elias watched with fascination. He thought about humanity, how humans had always faced challenges with ingenuity and courage. Even here, on the edge of the unknown, that spirit remained. Humans could adapt, learn, and earn respect even in the most unfamiliar worlds. The fire crackled, throwing light and shadow across the clearing. Elias felt a strange connection forming. Not friendship, not yet, but a mutual recognition of intelligence and awareness. The night was no longer just quiet. It was alive with possibility. Elias leaned back, letting his mind wander. The forest, the glowing trees, the strange, watchful creatures, they were part of a new chapter in human history. Every discovery, every cautious step, was a chance to prove humanity's resilience. He knew the challenges would grow as night deepened, but he also knew that humans thrived in challenges. He had survived countless dangers before and would do so again. As he stared into the fire, he whispered to himself, "This is just the beginning." And for the first time on this alien world, he did not feel fear. He felt determination. Somewhere in the forest, the group of creatures circled, watching and waiting. And Captain Elias Ward, alone but unafraid, prepared himself for whatever the night might bring. The quiet was over. The adventure had begun. The forest was alive in a way that Elias had never experienced before. The glowing trees stretched tall above him, their light creating shifting patterns on the forest floor. The soft mist hung in the air like a living curtain, blurring shapes and making the shadows deeper. The alien tribe had circled his campfire, silent but watchful. Elias knew he had to stay calm. One wrong move could turn curiosity into conflict, and he could not afford that. He leaned back in his chair, eyes scanning the moving shadows beyond the firelight. Small creatures scuttled between the trees, their bioluminescent bodies flashing briefly in the darkness. But the larger figures, the tribe, remained in the shadows, only partially visible as they studied him carefully. Elias could feel their intelligence, their awareness. They were not mere animals. These were creatures capable of strategy and observation. Elias had learned long ago that humans were often judged by the first impression they gave. His hands remained open, visible, and relaxed. He did not reach for tools or weapons. Instead, he offered gestures of peace, slow nods, calm movements, and gentle eye contact. The fire crackled and the smoke rose in soft swirls, carrying with it the sense of alien wood and burning air. Minutes passed. Then a soft rustling sounded from the edge of the clearing. Elias froze. This was different from the soft scuttling of smaller creatures. The sound came in deliberate steps, measured and cautious. He adjusted the scanner in his hand, trying to detect exactly how many were approaching. The signal was strong, at least half a dozen, moving in formation. Elias swallowed, keeping his voice calm. "Easy," he whispered to himself. "Observe first." The first figure appeared at the edge of the firelight. It was tall and slender, with patterned skin that shimmered faintly in the fire. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light like polished gems. Elias held its gaze, speaking softly. "I mean no harm," he said. His voice carried a calm confidence, not fear. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if understanding or at least acknowledging his intent. Behind the first, more shapes appeared. They moved silently, almost floating across the mossy ground. Elias noted their spacing. They were cautious, organized. Not chaotic, not aggressive yet, but he knew better than to underestimate them. Intelligence demanded respect. Humans had learned that lesson over and over across countless worlds. Elias stood slowly, keeping his movements deliberate. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small, portable light device, setting it on the ground near the fire. It emitted a soft, pulsing glow. The tribe paused. One of them stepped forward, hand raised. Elias understood it as a universal sign: curiosity. He smiled faintly. Curiosity could be dangerous, but it could also be a bridge. He took a small pouch of nutrient tablets and placed them on a rock in front of the first figure. Then he sat back down, hands open and relaxed. The figure approached cautiously, examining the items with delicate fingers. Elias watched intently, noting every movement, every reaction. The creature's attention to detail reminded him of humans, curious, intelligent, and careful in equal measure. The creature lifted one tablet, sniffed it, and then placed it back down. Another member of the tribe stepped forward, mimicking the first. Elias realized that they were learning from each other, teaching silently just as humans often did. This was not mindless curiosity. This was culture, observation, learning. Suddenly, a sound echoed from deeper in the forest, a low, rhythmic drumbeat, unlike anything Elias had heard before. The tribe froze, glancing toward the trees. Then one of them signaled to the others. They moved slightly backward, forming a tighter circle around the fire. Elias's pulse quickened. This was a sign of caution or perhaps warning. He had expected curiosity, but now he sensed the tension of something more significant. He leaned forward, speaking softly. "We are explorers," he said. "We mean no harm. Humans respect life." The words were simple, but his tone carried sincerity. The creatures tilted their heads again as if trying to interpret his meaning. He realized that language alone would not bridge this gap. Actions would speak louder than words. Elias reached into his pack and pulled out a small fire-starting tool, a compact device that could ignite wood instantly. He held it out for them to see, then used it to add a few more sticks to the fire. The flames leapt higher, casting dancing shadows across the forest. One of the tribe members mimicked the movement, touching the fire carefully, then retreating. Elias smiled. They were learning, adapting. For a while, there was only observation. The fire crackled, the mist swirled, and the tribe watched. Elias felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Humanity had faced the unknown countless times before, on Earth, in the skies, and now across the stars. Each challenge required intelligence, patience, and courage. He had all three. He would need them tonight. Suddenly, the scanner beeped, indicating movement beyond the immediate circle of the tribe. Elias looked up, heart pounding. More figures were approaching. These were different. larger, moving faster with longer limbs and sharper silhouettes. The first group shifted slightly, signaling caution to the newcomers. Elias realized this planet had multiple social groups, possibly multiple tribes. The complexity of their society was impressive. Humanity had always thrived not just through strength, but through understanding and adaptability. He decided to act carefully. Reaching into his pack, he pulled out a small reflective tool, a mirror designed to signal distant explorers. He angled it toward the newcomers, letting the light pulse in a controlled pattern. The newcomers paused, tilting their heads. The first group made subtle gestures, guiding them closer but keeping them at a safe distance. Elias felt a surge of respect for these creatures. They were not primitive, they were organized, strategic, and intelligent. The night deepened. The forest around him seemed to breathe. The glowing trees cast long shadows that twisted and swayed with the wind. The tribe moved slowly, circling, signaling, and watching. Elias remained calm, observing their behavior, noting patterns and recording every detail in his portable device. This was what humans did best: observe, adapt, and learn. He would not panic. He would not make mistakes. Hours passed. Elias ate a small portion of his rations, drank water, and kept the fire burning steadily. The creatures were still watching, still curious, but no attack came. He realized that his patience, his calm presence, and his willingness to show respect were paying off. Humans could survive in hostile environments because they combined intelligence with courage and adaptability with empathy. Then, a sudden movement caught his eye. One of the newcomers had stepped closer than the rest, examining a small gadget Elias had placed on a nearby rock. It was a sensor device, harmless but advanced. The creature's fingers traced the lines carefully. Then it paused and looked back at the first group. A series of gestures followed, quick and precise. Elias could not understand the language, but he understood the intent. They were communicating. They were sharing knowledge. Elias smiled faintly. Humanity had always earned respect not through force alone, but through curiosity, intelligence, and the ability to adapt. He had survived hostile deserts, frozen wastes, and ocean depths. He could survive this. The forest was strange. The creatures were alien, but the principles remained the same. Observe, understand, respect, act wisely. He leaned back in his chair, letting the firelight warm him. The mist swirled around the camp, softening the edges of the glowing forest. The tribe moved around the perimeter, their silhouettes shifting with the flickering flames. Elias felt a quiet thrill. This was the first night of true contact, the night where humans and aliens began to understand each other. The drums in the distance faded, replaced by the soft rustle of the tribe as they moved quietly. Elias took a deep breath, letting the moment sink in. He had faced countless dangers before, but this was different. The unknown here was alive, intelligent, and aware, and yet, humans had the ability to meet it with courage, ingenuity, and respect. As he watched the tribe, he whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning. If we play this right, humanity will not just survive, we will earn respect." Somewhere in the shadows, the tribe communicated silently, watching and learning. The night was far from over, and Elias knew that more challenges lay ahead. But he also knew that humans had always faced the unknown and risen stronger. The first signs of understanding had appeared tonight. The night had shifted from a test of fear to a challenge of respect and intelligence. And for Captain Elias Ward, alone in the alien forest, that was enough to give him hope. The forest had grown darker, though the glowing trees and phosphorescent fungi still gave the clearing an otherworldly light. Captain Elias Ward sat by his campfire, alert but calm, as the alien tribe moved with surprising coordination. The first group had maintained a cautious distance observing him, but now he noticed subtle changes in their behavior. They were forming a circle around the fire, encircling his small camp with a precision that suggested careful planning. Elias remained seated, hands visible, his eyes scanning every movement. His instincts told him to prepare for anything, but he reminded himself that fear could cloud judgment. Humans survived in hostile conditions not by panic but by thinking, adapting, and acting wisely. This was no different. The circle tightened gradually, the silhouettes of the tribe illuminated by the flickering firelight. Elias counted at least a dozen figures, all tall and lithe, moving with fluid grace. Their skin shimmered under the fire's glow, revealing intricate patterns that seemed almost ceremonial. He realized these patterns might indicate rank, role, or clan within the tribe. Humans had always understood society through observation, and he would use the same method here. He reached slowly into his pack and retrieved a small reflective panel. Angling it toward the tribe, he sent brief flashes of light in their direction, signaling that he meant no harm. The movements were cautious at first, but gradually some of the tribe responded, mimicking the flashes with natural reflective surfaces on their bodies. Elias recognized this as a form of communication, simple, but effective. Next, he laid out a few more gifts: nutrient packs, a portable fire starter, and a compact tool designed to produce light or sound when activated. He placed each item deliberately in front of the fire and then stepped back. The tribe approached carefully, circling and observing, their movements deliberate and controlled. One figure stepped forward, extended a hand, and touched the fire starter. Elias watched closely, holding his breath. The creature examined it with careful precision, then stepped back and gestured toward the others. A series of subtle movements followed. Elias could not understand the language, but the message was clear. They were teaching each other, sharing the knowledge of the strange human tools. Then, a sudden rustling from the trees behind the outer circle drew his attention. Elias's heart beat faster. The outer group signaled quickly, sending a warning to each other. A second group of creatures was approaching, larger in number and moving faster. Elias understood immediately. The night was no longer just about curiosity. It was a test. He needed to show humanity's intelligence and calmness to avoid provoking hostility. He knelt slowly, keeping his movements deliberate and peaceful. Using a small portable device, he projected a holographic map of the clearing, showing the positions of the fire, his camp, and the surrounding trees. The light flickered in the shadows, catching the tribe's attention. They leaned closer, observing the display with intense curiosity. Elias realized that humans had an advantage in these moments: the ability to combine creativity, technology, and intelligence to communicate across species. The larger group paused, clearly cautious but intrigued. Elias took a deep breath and spoke softly. "We mean no harm. Humans respect life. We observe, learn, and adapt." The words were simple, but his tone carried calm confidence. He watched the tribe's reactions. One figure tilted its head, another stepped forward slightly, and a low hum seemed to pass through the circle. Communication was happening, slow and deliberate, but it was happening. Elias recognized a pattern. The tribe valued caution, observation, and intelligence. Aggression would be met with defense, not understanding. Curiosity combined with respect would earn trust. Humans had survived countless dangers by applying these same principles, and he would do so again. He reached into his pack and retrieved a small, compact device that emitted soft pulses of sound. The tones were designed to be soothing, non-threatening, and rhythmic. He activated it, letting the pulses spread through the clearing. The tribe paused, listening intently. One of the figures approached the device, touching it carefully, then retreating. Another figure mirrored the gesture. Elias realized they were learning by imitation, just as humans often did. Hours passed with careful interaction. Elias observed every movement, every gesture, every subtle shift in behavior. He adjusted the fire's position, added small pieces of wood to maintain warmth and light, and continued offering gifts in a non-threatening manner. The tribe responded slowly, circling the fire, sometimes retreating into the shadows, sometimes stepping closer to inspect his tools. At one point, a sudden sound, a low rhythmic drumming, echoed from deeper in the forest. The tribe froze, their bodies stiffening. Elias held his breath. He knew the sound could mean anything: a warning, a ritual, or simply communication among their kind. He remained calm, letting the firelight illuminate him, showing that he posed no threat. Slowly, the tribe signaled each other, a sequence of subtle gestures that Elias interpreted as coordination. They were deciding whether he was dangerous. Elias knew humans had earned respect throughout history not by aggression, but by intelligence and adaptability. He adjusted his approach. Using gestures, he indicated that he wished to communicate, to share knowledge. One figure stepped forward, mimicking his gestures. Elias nodded, encouraging the interaction. He pointed to the fire, then to the nutrients, then back to himself. The figure repeated the sequence. Slowly, understanding began to form. The encirclement, once tense and potentially threatening, began to shift. The tribe's curiosity started to overcome caution. One of the figures approached the fire, inspecting the flames carefully. Elias demonstrated how to add a small piece of wood without harming the flames. The creature mimicked him, placing the wood carefully and stepping back to observe the result. Elias smiled faintly. Humanity's adaptability was at work. The outer group, seeing this exchange, relaxed slightly. They still maintained a circle, but the movements were less rigid, less defensive. Elias realized the tribe respected intelligence, observation, and cautious interaction. These were traits humans had long relied upon, and now, on an alien world, they were proving their worth once again. He took a moment to document everything in his portable recorder: the tribe's size, behavior, gestures, and interaction with his tools. This knowledge would be invaluable for understanding the species and for ensuring peaceful coexistence. Humanity had always survived by learning quickly and acting wisely. Tonight was no different. As the night deepened, Elias felt a growing sense of connection. The tribe, once purely mysterious and potentially dangerous, now seemed engaged in cautious dialogue. Their movements, gestures, and examination of his tools indicated curiosity and intelligence rather than hostility. Elias recognized the opportunity before him. Humans could earn respect not through force but through observation, patience, and ingenuity. He adjusted the fire one more time, letting the flames dance higher. The light reflected off the tribe's patterned skin, revealing subtle details he had not noticed before: symbols, markings, and shapes that might indicate status or role within their society. Humanity had always learned by observation, and he was applying the same principle here. Then a shift occurred. One of the figures stepped forward closer than the rest and extended a hand toward the fire. Elias held his own hand out, palm open, showing that he meant no harm. The gesture was simple, universal, and human. The figure hesitated, then touched his hand briefly, withdrawing carefully. A ripple of signals passed through the circle. Elias understood a form of acknowledgement had been made. The encirclement had moved from threat to cautious engagement. Elias leaned back, letting the firelight warm him. The forest around him remained alive with strange sounds, glowing lights, and the subtle movements of the tribe. He felt a quiet thrill. Humans had faced danger countless times in history, and here on a distant world, the same traits that had ensured survival were at work: intelligence, adaptability, courage, and respect. Hours passed with careful observation and interaction. The tribe continued to circle, sometimes moving closer, sometimes stepping back, always watching. Elias offered more gestures of peace, showing the fire starter, demonstrating how to prepare simple nutrients, and signaling that he wished no harm. Each action was mirrored by the tribe, a silent dialogue forming between species. By the time the twin moons rose high in the sky, Elias realized that the first night of full encirclement had ended not in conflict, but in understanding. The tribe had tested him, their caution evident in every movement, but they had also learned from him. Humanity's resilience, intelligence, and respect had earned their acknowledgement. As he sat by the fire, documenting the night's events, Elias whispered softly to himself, "Humans survive by learning, adapting, and respecting life. That is why we endure, and why we will thrive." The forest seemed to listen, the glowing trees swaying gently in a quiet breeze. Somewhere in the shadows the tribe rested, their forms still visible but calm. The encirclement was complete, but the tension had shifted. Humans had shown they could meet the unknown not with fear, but with intelligence and courage. And Captain Elias Ward, alone in the alien forest, felt a sense of pride and purpose. Tonight had proven one thing: humanity could not only survive, it could earn. The forest around Captain Elias Ward remained alive with strange light and soft whispers of movement. By now, the alien tribe had shifted from cautious encirclement to subtle engagement. They no longer merely watched from the shadows. They were interacting, slowly exploring the camp, observing every motion Elias made. Elias knew this was a crucial moment. The night was deep and the time for first contact had come. He stood slowly and faced the tribe, keeping his hands visible and open. The firelight flickered across his suit, casting shadows that made the trees seem taller, the mist thicker. Yet he felt no fear. Fear was a tool, yes, but humans had learned that calm intelligence earned respect in any situation. He pointed to the fire, demonstrating how to feed it with small pieces of wood. One of the tribe stepped forward, touching the flames carefully, their fingers just above the heat. They mimicked his movements slowly, showing their curiosity but also their caution. Elias nodded, encouraging the interaction. He could sense that trust was slowly forming, built not through force but through respect and demonstration. Next, he took out a small map projector. The device displayed a simple holographic map of the clearing and the surrounding area. The tribe circled, leaning in to observe. Elias pointed to various areas, the fire, his tent, and some natural features nearby. Then he gestured outward, indicating the forest beyond. The tribe tilted their heads, studying the device. They were learning, analyzing, interpreting. Humanity had always survived by thinking, observing, and adapting, and now, the same principles were bridging a gap between species. After a pause, Elias retrieved a small container of nutrient-rich food packs. He placed one on a rock near the fire and pointed to it, offering it as a gift. The tallest member of the tribe approached slowly, touched the pack, then stepped back and signaled to the others. A ripple of gestures spread through the group, and finally, one member picked up a pack and examined it carefully. Elias smiled. Respect and trust could grow through small, deliberate actions. Time passed. The mist swirled, the glowing trees cast eerie shadows, and the tribe gradually relaxed, sitting or kneeling near the fire. Elias recognized their movements as a form of silent communication. Gestures, postures, and even subtle changes in skin patterns that reflected light differently. Humans had always relied on observation, and tonight, that skill was paying off in a profound way. Elias spoke softly, narrating his actions. He showed them how to start a fire using the small portable device, demonstrating the simplicity and safety of the process. One creature stepped forward, touching the fire starter. Its eyes widened as the flame leapt higher. Elias gestured for it to try itself. Hesitant at first, the creature mimicked his movements, creating a small spark that flickered in the mist. The other tribe members observed, signaling excitement or approval to each other. Slowly, a new rhythm formed around the fire. Elias clapped gently, then tapped a stick against a rock, creating a soft, steady beat. The tribe mirrored the rhythm, tapping stones, sticks, or even parts of their own bodies. A silent, wordless dialogue emerged. Humans had always thrived by understanding patterns, recognizing rhythm, and finding common ground, even with those who could not speak the same language. Tonight, that skill was bridging worlds. Elias realized the tribe had their own form of ritual. The gestures, the positions, and the interaction with the fire and objects were more than curiosity. They were signs of intelligence, culture, and social hierarchy. One figure, taller and adorned with slightly more elaborate skin markings, seemed to be a leader. This individual approached cautiously, observing Elias, then touching a tool with care. Elias responded with calm gestures, showing cooperation. The night deepened. Stars shone faintly through the alien canopy, reflecting in the glowing trees. Elias knew that trust would take time, patience, and intelligence. Humans had always survived by carefully navigating social interactions, reading signals, and adapting to unfamiliar cultures. The tribe was beginning to accept him, not as an intruder but as an intelligent presence worthy of cautious respect. Elias decided to test the next step: communication. He drew simple shapes in the dirt, representing objects around the camp: a fire, food, water, trees. Then he pointed to himself and gestured friend in a broad, universal manner. The tribe leaned closer, examining the symbols. One figure touched a drawn symbol, then touched itself, then gestured to the fire. Elias smiled faintly. They were connecting concepts, understanding intention. Hours passed, but Elias felt no exhaustion. Instead, he felt exhilaration. Humans had always turned uncertainty into opportunity, fear into intelligence. This night, on a distant alien world, humanity's strengths, adaptability, curiosity, and courage were proving themselves once again. The tribe was learning from him and he from them. By the faint light of dawn, Elias felt a subtle shift. The tribe had relaxed entirely, sitting near the fire, some observing the flames, others mimicking his movements with tools. One of the younger members attempted to replicate the holographic map projection, creating a simple pattern of glowing points using natural materials. Elias watched fascinated. They were capable of learning, sharing knowledge, and adapting, traits humans had always valued and relied upon. Elias reached out his hand slowly, palm open, toward the leader of the tribe. After a moment of hesitation, the figure extended its hand in response, touching his briefly. A ripple of gestures passed through the group. Elias knew this was a pivotal moment, acknowledgement. Humanity had proven its intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Respect had been earned, silently but undeniably. The forest remained quiet in the early morning, the mist retreating slowly, revealing more of the strange, beautiful world around him. The tribe had accepted him as a guest, not a threat. Elias felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Humans had survived countless unknowns in history, and now, here on an alien planet, the same qualities, patience, intelligence, and courage, had opened a path toward understanding. As he prepared to rest, Elias reflected on the night's events. The tribe's curiosity, intelligence, and cautious engagement were remarkable. Humanity had met the unknown not with force but with intelligence and respect, and it had worked. The alien world was no longer a place of potential danger. It was a place of opportunity, connection, and understanding. For the first time, Elias felt a profound connection not only to the tribe, but to the spirit of humanity itself. Humans survived, thrived, and adapted because of these qualities. On this alien world, alone yet not afraid, he had proven once again that humans were capable of extraordinary feats, not through aggression, but through intelligence, empathy, and courage. The forest stirred gently as the tribe returned to their silent rituals, observing the fire, interacting with the tools, and maintaining subtle communication. Elias settled down near the flames, recording notes and observations. Humanity had earned a foothold, not through dominance but through understanding. Tonight, a fragile bridge had been built between species, and it was a testament to what humans could achieve. As dawn fully broke over the alien horizon, Elias whispered softly to himself, "We survive. We adapt, we understand. That is what makes us human." And for the first time on this world, he felt the quiet thrill of accomplishment and hope. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the translucent trees, painting the forest in pale blues and golds. Captain Elias Ward awoke to the gentle rustling of leaves and the soft, cautious movements of the alien tribe around his camp. The night had been long, but it had passed without violence. Instead, a subtle understanding had been established. Elias stood slowly, stretching, careful not to make sudden movements. The tribe observed silently, their eyes reflecting curiosity more than fear. He smiled faintly. Humans had always relied on observation and adaptability, and tonight those qualities had borne fruit. The tribe had accepted him as a presence worthy of respect. He began his morning routine, gathering small samples of soil, moss, and glowing fungi while remaining aware of the tribe's presence. One of the younger figures followed cautiously, mimicking his actions. Elias nodded in approval, understanding that learning and imitation were key aspects of their social structure. Humanity had always survived by teaching and learning, and this interaction exemplified that principle perfectly. After preparing a small breakfast, Elias offered a few pieces of nutrient-rich food to the tribe. The leader approached, examined the food carefully, and gestured to allow the others to partake. Elias watched as the tribe shared the offering among themselves. The gesture of generosity had been understood and trust deepened. Humanity had earned respect not through force, but through intelligence and kindness. Elias decided it was time to explore the forest with the tribe's cautious guidance. He stepped slowly beyond the clearing, gesturing for the tribe to follow. They moved in formation around him, their body language signaling curiosity and observation. The forest was alive with strange sounds, glowing plants, and unfamiliar creatures. Elias kept his scanner active, noting the behavior of the wildlife and the tribe's reactions. As they moved, the tribe demonstrated knowledge of the terrain. One figure signaled toward a small stream, indicating water nearby. Elias nodded, understanding the direction. They were not merely observing, they were guiding him, sharing knowledge of the environment. Humanity had always survived by listening, learning, and adapting, and this interaction was no different. The morning passed with careful exploration. Elias learned to recognize subtle signs of the tribe's communication, gestures, skin reflections, and posture changes. They showed him safe paths, areas to avoid, and points of interest within the forest. In return, he demonstrated simple human techniques, how to gather food safely, how to create small fires, and how to use tools for efficiency. Knowledge was being exchanged quietly and respectfully. By midday, a tentative bond had formed. The tribe no longer viewed Elias as an outsider to fear. They saw him as an intelligent presence capable of learning and teaching. Elias understood the significance. Humans had survived countless worlds by building alliances, forming trust, and demonstrating intelligence. Tonight, that principle had been proven once again. Elias prepared a small shelter using portable equipment and native materials, showing the tribe how to create safe spaces. One of the younger members mimicked the construction with enthusiasm, while the leader observed carefully. Trust and respect deepened further. Humanity had always thrived by adapting to environments and building connections, and now an alien tribe had recognized those strengths. As dusk approached, Elias reflected on the events of the past 2 days. What had begun as a tense encounter had evolved into a fragile alliance. The tribe had circled him, testing his intentions, yet through patience, observation, and intelligence, humans had earned acknowledgement. The fire, the gifts, and the simple acts of communication had created a bridge. Finally, the leader of the tribe approached Elias once more. The gesture was deliberate. They extended a hand, which Elias met with his own. A moment of mutual recognition passed, a silent agreement of respect, understanding, and cooperation. Humanity had proven its worth not by force, but by intelligence, adaptability, and courage. That night, the tribe gathered around the campfire with Elias. The air was filled with the soft rhythm of their silent communication, the flickering flames reflecting in their eyes. Elias realized that this moment was historic. Humans had survived in countless worlds by adapting and connecting. Here on this distant planet, they had done it again. As he gazed into the flames, Elias whispered, "Humans survive because we learn, we adapt, and we respect life. That is our strength." The forest seemed to respond with a quiet rustle, the tribe's silhouettes moving gently around him. Humanity had not only survived the night, they had earned respect and forged the beginnings of a lasting alliance. Elias prepared his logs for the record, documenting the tribe's behavior, gestures, and the subtle exchanges that had taken place. This knowledge would serve future explorers, ensuring that humanity's first contact with this species would continue on a foundation of respect and intelligence. Humans had proven themselves once again, not as conquerors, but as explorers, learners, and allies. As dawn broke fully, painting the forest in golden light, Elias watched the tribe retreat into the trees, leaving markers of their territory and symbols of acknowledgement. Humanity had survived, adapted, and connected. And in that quiet victory, Captain Elias Ward knew that humans could thrive anywhere, not through force, but through intelligence, courage, and respect for life. The night was over, but the story was just beginning. Humanity had proven itself, and in the vastness of the universe, one thing was clear. Wherever humans went, they would survive, adapt, and be recognized for the courage and intelligence that defined them.